In the annals of the steppe, power is fleeting. It is cast by the flame of a leader's strength and reputation, and it is won not by birthright, but by the sharp edge of a sword and the sharper edge of a keen mind. It is for Yagbu Tatus Khared, the Khan of the Pechenegs. This truth was the wind that blew through his encampment, and his horde, a gathering of fierce clans and regular counts. Their loyalty was as shifting as the sands, and we find ourselves in the yurt of Yagbu. A man with a powerful build, but he is maintaining a calm expression, and he stands before his chieftains and vassals, and their faces, of course, are weathered and calculating. To rule such a man was to walk the razor's edge, and Tatus held court to measure his own power and feel the tremors of ambition that ran through his command, and every petition and dispute was but a test. They look at me, and they see the title, but they question the man. My legitimacy is not good. They see a calm man. They do not fear me. They are a pack of wolves, and they are testing the strength of their alpha. They see plenty of horse raiders among our people, and each chieftain imagines those raiders riding under their own banner. He loved to eat, and he loved to take what he wanted, and the choice was very easy. I will take the gold, said Tatus. He would not rule through fear, but he would rule with wealth by his side. He would not allow the coffers to run dry. The right to rule solidified, but this act, of course, was merely a patch on the fraying garments, and it was a deeper structural problem that had remained within the court that would affect all future outcomes. It was a source. It was his vassals that were a constant friction between his rule. But Yagbu, of course, held too many duchies. And each land he holds leads to a constant unspoken accusation of greed, and it feeds the resentment of his peoples. So he must decide who he must grant. And he must be careful about who he grants it to before it could be seen as weakness or create an mighty subject who might one day challenge his rule. So Tatus must begin to choose his poison carefully. Bring me the records for the chieftains. I need to know their disposition. There. That one. He hates me the less. I will grant you this duchy, and you will hold it in my name. However, I will still keep Yari. That will remain with me. The chieftain's expression sours instantly. Yari, of course, was the jewel of the duchy, but to be granted the duchy and denied its heart was a calculated slight and a leash wrapped around the gift. You grant me the title, but keep its best parts for yourself? You're going to be mad at me for feeling slighted by this. And of course, Tatus just barely looks at the vassal's face, and he can see the concealed fury, and he feels a sense of satisfaction. The anger is precisely the point. And Tatus, of course, thinking to himself, perfect. Your anger will be a shield for me. It will turn the envy of the other chieftains towards you. and this will help what I am planning. Let them snarl at each other over the bones that I have thrown. Tatus knew that his vassals must be carefully monitored and also baited and debated. But alas, this was not the time for a rush from war break. Perhaps the Cumans to the east hoard wealth as we go and continue our raids in the Byzantiums to fill our coffers. But of course, suddenly, Strategos Iononis would declare war on the Pechenegs in a hope for easy expansion. The timing, of course, was impeccable. The ships had already been sent, and Yagbu would have to immediately turn his men back from raiding and return back to defend the homeland from raids. But while they were raiding, opportunities arose to steal, to take from the local chieftains of the Cumans. The troops stood at the ready, and of course we must take wealth home and further build our men for the oncoming onslaught. And so word had come again from the west, and it was a formal proclamation of war. The Strategos wanted to carve a peace out in Tatus's domain. His goal was for Chilla, a vital territory on the Black Sea, and this was no mere border skirmish. It was a challenge from a world power. And Tatus, thinking to himself, these Romans, they are coming. Their legions are slow, but they are relentless like a tide of iron. And they want my land, let them come. War is a crucible, and it will reveal the true metal and burn away the dross. And approaches his Kurlatai steward. My Yagbu, we can inspire the people with prayer, hoping for fertility and growth to strengthen us, or we can make certain preparations for what is to come. And in this moment of existential threat, a different kind of ruler would sought to have bolstered morale in the future of his people, but Tatus was a pragmatist. He had an eye for the tangible and saw the war through a different lens. And he did not see it as a threat, but rather an opportunity. Let us get more loot, and we will rob him for all he's worth. He will learn to regret stepping upon my lands. Steward, my Kurlatai, can we call upon our allies? No, my Yagbu, we are alone in this fight. Then we shall be enough. To lead a steppe horde is to be the tip of the spear. The Khan must be seen and his courage must be witnessed. But this tradition was vital for the loyalty of his men, and it carried a grave risk. The chaos of battle is a cloak, and beneath it a dagger can find a king's back as easily as the Roman sword. And Tatus, trusting in his own powers, rode into battle, unaware that the greatest threats was not the army before him, but vipers that were nestled within his own. The battle would commence, and the horse archers would harass the Byzantine lines. It was a swirling cloud of death, but the Strategos is a wily commander. His infantry holds firm, a disciplined shield wall bristling with spears, and the battle descends in a brutal close quarters melee. They are disciplined, but they are slow. We must break their line and send in the heavy horses. The signal was given, but a response was delayed, and in the tumult of combat, such as things can be dismissed, but history is often written in such moments of confusion. Maybe a chieftain's flank failed to engage, leaving the Khan's own warriors exposed, an island in a sea of enemies. A cohort of Byzantine heavy cavalry smashed into the right flank that was exposed. The world became a blur of chaos and violence. Tatus was surrounded. He had to fight in the ferocity of a cornered lion, and his blade a silver arc of death. "Is this the great Khan? I thought you were a tough soldier." And that taunt was answered with steel by Tatus. He cut down one man, but there was always more, and they pressed in with a wall of shields and spears. And then a searing white-hot pain explodes in his leg as the Byzantine axe bites deep, shearing through the muscle and bone, and he cries out a shock of agony. "My leg! Oh, my leg!" Tatus, of course, felt his blood soaking the earth. He would not fall from his horse because he knew that that would mean certain death. The last thing he would allow were for his vassals to see him in a weakened state. But of course, in the distance, he could see the eyes of all those who followed him. Some were mixed with fear, some with titillation, some disappointment. We do not know if this day was planned for the Yagbu to perish, but he still lost his leg. And later on, we find ourselves in the yurt. Long after the battle had finished, the Yagbu sits with its leg carefully mended, only to look like a stubble. Tatus repeats his own monologue. "They got me. I thought I would be the mightiest of them all. Maybe I should have studied more, but... To fight at the front, it was almost game over. The wound to his body was grievous, but the wound of the mind was mortal. He had learned to see the truth in battle. And in all of this confusion, some say he lost a leg, but in reality, he really lost his sword arm. I don't know why, but they were confused. Tatus in his own dreams, and once he woke up, he realized, wait, I didn't lose a leg? I lost an arm? Some would question whether he would still be worthy to serve as Yagbu, but nobody really questioned the moment. They just kept pushing forward. And Yagbu went on a walk. And from this walk, he thought to himself, forget leading troops. we can't do that anymore. I lost an arm, and I thought I had lost a leg. Yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Never again. We will command from the rear going forward. And with that, the war with Byzantine was swiftly concluded. A hoard of gold was stashed and put away into the coffers. Yagbu still had to fear being at death's door. He survived potential treachery, who's to say, if it actually was. And his body was broken, but his mind was still strong. And even then, some would still question that. And we open into the smoky light of Tatus's yurts. Many days have passed since the battle, and Tatus is propped up on a pile of furs, his jaws tight with pain, and his physician nearby, but Tatus waves him off. His wound continues to fester, but he endures. Outside, the mood of the camp is grim. The langing war with the Byzantines continues to grind on everyone's mind. And Yagbu's injury hangs over the horde like a shroud. A wounded leader is a scent of blood in the water. It is an invitation to the sharks that circle the throne. Tatus was grievously injured, and for long days he had yet to be promptly treated for his maiming. And whispers, of course, slithered through the encampment. Some said it was a Byzantine axe that had felled him, and others, in hushed tones, suggested it was the incompetence of his own vassals. And now the court, no longer a place of simmering resentment, it was a theater of morbid speculation, and they watched and waited to see if the Khan would break. And the flaps of the yurt flew open, and a steward enters, bowing low. Mayagbu, a delegation has arrived. It is Saru of the Cumans. He requests an audience. Oh yes, the Cumans. They were a powerful confederation of steppe tribes and rivals as often as they were allies. And their arrival at this moment was a profound political statement. They could be here to seek and sense weakness and circle the wounded beast that is Tatus. Or it could be potential for friendship and help. But for Tatus, it was an opportunity he could not afford to ignore. And Tatus, seated on his throne, his posture is rigid. He has forced himself into ceremonial robes. And Saru, the Cuman Khan, enters, an imposing man with eyes that seem to miss nothing. As he approaches Tatus, his gaze sweeps over the leader. Yagbu Tatus, the winds of the steppe carry dark news. They say you met the Romans in battle. And his eyes flicker for a moment. It was a subtle but noticeable glance. First, at Tatus's arm, which was held stiffly at his side, then down towards his leg, which are concealed by robes and furs. And a shadow of confusion crosses Saru's face. Let them wonder, thought Tatus. Let them all wonder. A man they understand can be killed. A legend is much harder to destroy. I hear that they say I lost my leg. But the world is full of conflicting stories, and let my own story be just as confusing. And Tatus ignores the unspoken question in Saru's gaze. And his own internal calculus is running at a feverish pace. He needs this man. The Byzantines will come again, thought Tatus, and my own chieftains wait for me to stumble. This alliance with the Cumans. We could be friends. Marriage? No. We must have something faster, something more personal. Blood. The Romans came, they paid the price, but their empire is vast and they will return. My war is your war, Saru. Their legions will not stop at just the Black Sea. These are bold words. The Romans are formidable. Why should the Cumans bleed for your wars? Because I will bleed for yours. Name an enemy and I will help you. We will wash the steppes in the blood of our enemies. And together I offer more than a treaty. I offer brotherhood. This was a sacred bond between two Khans. A blood brotherhood was an ancient rite steeped in power and significance. And it was sealed by blood. The cup, Tatus gestures to his physician. And as the physician approaches, he looks at Tatus's arm and then his leg. The entire court watches, holding its breath. And Tatus stares at Saru, a wild, almost ecstatic gleam in his eyes. I put the blood from my leg in the cup. And in that moment, he gestured not to his wounded leg, but commands the physician to make a fresh, deep cut on his calf. and the physician obeys. The blood wells up, dipping into the golden cup. The audible gasp ripples through the onlookers. Was this the original wound, a new one? Was the story of a lost leg a lie, or was this separate? Masses of confusion. And in that moment, Tatus transformed his suffering. He took control of the narrative, turning a symbol of his vulnerability into an act of unpredictable power. And he was not just a wounded man, he was a Khan who bled for his oaths, and a man whose very scars were a source of legend. And Saru, watching, he sees not weakness, but a man of immense will, and he takes the knife and makes a cut in his own arm, and lets the blood flow into the cup, mingling with Tatus's. I will become your blood brother, and we will become homies. And they drank forth the cup and sealed their alliance, and the effect was immediate. The whispers stop. The treacherous vassals and conspirators look on. The man they left for dead had just doubled his strength, and their moments had passed. And of course, the Byzantines would seek to boat bomb and try to continue the assault. But they were not met just by the Pechenegs, but by a wall of Cuman warriors fighting alongside them. The combined horde's might was overwhelming. The Brotherhood paid dividends in blood and victory, and with the Cuman support, the Pechenegs met the next Byzantine attack with overwhelming force. And Tatus, a main man, orchestrated the battle with his mind and not his body, serving as the army's edge. And they will completely wipe. It was a great victory against the Byzantines, and it was a testament to Tatus's new way of ruling. I may have lost a limb, but I have gained a brotherhood. I have silenced the vipers, and if I die, at least I will have someone to continue on what I have built. The Yagbu may fall, but the Karaids will continue forever. Let all wonder which limb is gone, and let them all wonder what other scars I may hide. The confusion was now his armor, and the memory was his sharpest sword.